Years went by, and I found myself grappling with a painful reality: my sister had betrayed me by having an affair with my husband. To make matters worse, my toxic family chose to side with her. It was a bitter pill to swallow, especially when they reached out to me, pleading for a kidney to save her life. You would think that family would always support you, but after my sister shattered my marriage, I was faced with the impossible decision of whether to save her or let her suffer. Everything seemed to be going well until about 8 months ago, when my sister, Sarah, 30, returned to our hometown after living in California since she was 19. Her long-term boyfriend had dumped her and moved to another city, leaving her in dire straits. The details surrounding their breakup were mostly a mystery to me. When Sarah came back, she claimed that he had been unfaithful with other men. I didn't know him well, but that seemed hard to believe. I had only met him a handful of times during their 5-year relationship, as Sarah would typically come home for the holidays and stay for just a few days. He had joined her on 2 of those visits, and I last saw him 3 years ago when my husband and I dropped by for a day while on vacation. He didn't strike me as the type to lead a double life and leave Sarah with nothing. I tried reaching out to him once, but he blocked me, so I let it go. Sarah moved back in with our parents, Laura, 54, and Mark, 57. For the first month, she struggled to find work, so I suggested that my husband, Ryan, help her out. He was a manager at his firm and I thought he could pull some strings. He did, and she landed a job in his department, which was a good fit for her career. Sarah and I have never been particularly close. She was always the favored child in our family. It wasn't overt, but rather a series of subtle details that added up over the years. For instance, when we turned 17, we both received cars, but mine was a beat-up 10-year-old Ford Focus while hers was a shiny new Honda Civic. Her dance classes, costumes, and competitions had cost our parents thousands of dollars over the years, with some events being hours away. They never batted an eye at the expenses. Meanwhile, when I asked for $50 to attend a local sports camp, it felt like I was asking for a small fortune. What frustrated me the most was when I was 18, I went out with my boyfriend and lost track of time, arriving home just 15 minutes past curfew. My parents took my car away for a month as punishment. The following year, when Sarah came home 2 hours late smelling of alcohol, she received nothing more than a stern talking to. I wasn't particularly sad when she left for college in Florida, but I was surprised when she started spending more time at our house. Initially, I thought it was great that she wanted to reconnect, but then I noticed her growing closeness with Ryan. They would talk for hours about seemingly anything, sharing inside jokes that excluded me. When I tried to join in, they would brush me off with, "It's just work-related." I brought it up with Ryan, and he assured me that they had a lot in common and were collaborating on various projects. The first major red flag came about a month later when I returned home from work and found Sarah at our house. Ryan and I had different work schedules. He worked from 9 to 5 while I was on a later shift from 11 to 8. This became a regular occurrence. When I asked Ryan about it, he would say they were just working on something together. 2 weeks ago, I stumbled upon something that made me question my sanity. Every morning before I left for work, I made the bed, always positioning the open side of the pillowcase toward the edge. When I got home that day, I noticed that 2 of the pillows had their cases turned inward. I asked Ryan if he had been in bed that day, and he looked surprised but said no. "Why do you ask?" he inquired. I explained that the bed didn't look the way I had left it. He insisted I must have been mistaken, as no one had been in the bed. I searched through his phone and laptop without his knowledge but found nothing suspicious. Still, they worked together for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then hung out afterward. Why did they need to text each other so much? I felt like I was losing my mind. 2 weeks ago, my parents invited us over for dinner. Everything was going smoothly until I noticed something unsettling. Ryan flinched when Sarah casually grabbed his arm. He looked at her, and she whispered something. They pressed their foreheads together for just a moment, and then Ryan quickly stood up and walked away. Sarah was guilt-ridden. A few days later, he announced that we would have to split the house. I knew it was Sarah whispering in his ear. I had already transferred everything from our joint savings account to a new one, so there would be no fight over that. Just like that, 9 years of my life felt like they had vanished. He had no idea what he was getting into, she was a narcissist and would eventually discard him. Sarah had been particularly harsh throughout this ordeal. A few days after I discovered the affair, she posted a selfie on Facebook of her and Ryan, with him kissing her cheek from behind. The caption read, "Feeling loved." It was gut-wrenching. I logged out of my account and deleted the app from my phone. About an hour later, she texted me, saying, "Sorry sis, I didn't mean to tag you. No hard feelings, I hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday too." I blocked her on everything I could think of. My parents weren't much better. When I told them I was cutting off contact with Sarah and Ryan, they initially tried to be sympathetic. My mother looked at me and said, "I'm sorry this happened. It shouldn't have happened this way, but your sister deserves to be happy too. You'll meet someone, and then we can put this all behind us." I was furious and informed them about the post and the text Sarah had sent me. My mother replied, "Well, you shouldn't be on that stuff anyway." My father had been silent throughout this entire ordeal. When I finally asked him what he thought, he simply said, "I agree with your mother," before walking out of the room. I decided to cut off all communication with them as well. The house would be sold soon, and I planned to move to a different state. I didn't inform my family where or when, I just wanted to be done with them. I wished them the worst. Update 2. Hello everyone, I realize it's been 4 years since my last update, but a significant event has occurred. I'll start with an update on myself. I am recently engaged. It took a lot of healing to get me back out there. I began dating shortly after settling in Minnesota. My first date was decent, but I quickly discovered he was incredibly annoying. I swore off dating forever after that. That's when I decided to go to therapy to deal with the trauma from my husband and sister's betrayal, as well as my parents' abandonment. After a challenging year, I met Jake, a 39-year-old man. Yes, he shares the same first name as my father, which is amusing. But Jake is wonderful. He's a chef, and he and his twin brother, Max, own a successful restaurant and bar. I'm incredibly excited to start my future with Jake. Now, about my family's audacity, I had no contact with them for almost 9 months after I left. I didn't tell them where I moved, I only shared my new address with a few close friends and cousins. One day, I returned home to find a wedding invitation in the mail. It was for Ryan and Sarah's wedding. The invitation featured a nauseating photo of them cuddling in a sunflower field. Along with it was a letter from my parents that read something like this: "You need to forgive and put all of this behind us. We know things didn't go the best, but we're a family, and families work through problems." They also mentioned that Sarah wanted me to be a bridesmaid, just like she had been for me. What the actual hell? That letter reopened all kinds of old wounds. My therapist saw a significant increase in business as a result. Today, I find it amusing, but back then, it was anything but funny. I didn't reply at all. The only thing I did was figure out which members of my extended family had informed my ex-family about my address and cut them off as well. This brings us to the most recent drama. Last week, Ryan of all people showed up at my apartment. Jake and I don't live together yet, but that will change soon. Ryan looked nice, too nice, as if he was trying to present his best self. When he arrived, I asked, "What do you want?" He responded, "I just want to talk. I'm so sorry for what I did. Sarah and I are divorcing. I found out she was unfaithful throughout our entire marriage." Surprise, surprise. I don't expect you to take me back, but we should talk and get some closure for both of our sakes. I blinked in disbelief. Had he lost his mind? I maintained a straight face and replied, "No, I owe you no closure. You made your own bed. Did you really think that golden girl of yours, who has had more visitors than a hotel, would suddenly stop just because you put a ring? Not that naive. Did you protect yourself, or did she get half of all your assets with a smile?" Ryan replied, "I stuck it out almost another year with her so I could start stowing away savings and selling off some assets. In the end, she got a fraction of what she would have." I inquired about what happened to her afterward. Ryan responded, "She had to move back in with your parents." I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. Yes, thank you, that's what I wanted to hear. You can go now, I said. Austin, you heard her. Ryan attempted to object, but I interrupted him. No forgiveness, no closure. I just wanted to know my loser sister was back living at home. Get out. Austin stood and pointed to the door. Ryan looked around and noticed the bartender and two waitstaff glaring at him. He tucked his tail and turned toward the exit. Austin added, and if you ever come back, Ryan cut him off, yeah, I know. Cops. Trespassing. After he left, practically everyone checked on me. It was both comforting and embarrassing. My beloved future in-laws called, insisting that I stay with Austin for the next few days just to be safe. It was incredibly sweet. I had never had a family that looked after me so well. I didn't hear from Ryan again, and I prayed I never would. Update 3. Hello everyone, I didn't expect to have another update, but here I am. First, let me introduce myself. I am a 42-year-old mother of two boys, ages 7 and 3. Austin and I are doing quite well. I now work as a part-time office manager for the restaurant, and Austin's cousin, Mia, invested in the business, allowing us to launch a second location 3 years ago. It's been a lot more work, but with the three of us remaining highly committed in both places, we've been successful. Plus, it allows each of us some personal time. It wasn't ideal, but I believe I became pregnant while living with Austin after his parents encouraged it following my previous update. They now joke that they had always wanted to be grandparents, and it was all part of the plan. Now for an update. After the last time Ryan found me, I figured it was only a matter of time before my parents or sister showed up. It didn't happen immediately, and I relaxed a little since I felt I had a strong support structure in place. I even returned to social media, maintaining no contact with much of my family, including extended family. However, I had no illusions that they wouldn't be able to locate me if they tried. I didn't receive my first message until after our first child was born. It was from my mother. She offered a half-hearted apology, mentioned forgiveness, and inquired about her grandchild. I was tempted to block her but found the implication that my child was her grandchild offensive. My response was, "You do not have any grandchildren. I am not your daughter, and thus my children have no relation to you. If you want grandchildren, then you should encourage Sarah to get out there and do what she does best." At that moment, I blocked her. She created new accounts and attempted to contact me for a while, but I always denied or deleted any requests or communications. This brings me to the recent drama. I was getting swamped with requests, texts, and other attempts to contact me. I read part of it, and it was a sob story about missing out on their grandchildren's lives and wanting to make amends. Honestly, I didn't care. I had no intention of including them in my life again. Then the most startling thing happened. Sarah began reaching out to me. She wasn't saying much, just that she really wanted to talk to me. After about 3 weeks, I consented to a Zoom meeting with just me and no kids. When it first started, people kept wanting to see the children, but I was determined that it would not happen. They have 3 grandparents, Austin's mother, father, and grandmother. I was getting the impression that this was about something different. Sarah looked dreadful, and my parents appeared old and worn. As we started talking, they all began apologizing for everything that had happened, even Sarah. She admitted she was wrong to do what she did and wished she could have her sister back. That was a ludicrous idea. Mom immediately took over, spewing her usual nonsense about being a family and looking out for one another. When she finished, I simply looked at them and said, "Is that all you have? I'm going to leave." Then they yelled at me to wait, and the facade crumbled. The actual cause was soon to emerge. Apparently, Sarah had been dealing with health challenges for the past few years. For whatever reason, her kidneys were failing, and she required match. I agreed to return home to St. Charles. By the time I arrived, Sarah had developed some complications and needed to be taken to the hospital. This got everyone off my back about meeting for dinner because I had no intention of doing anything social with these people. Every time they seemed to have a free moment, my parents would ask whether I had considered helping them with their financial difficulties. They managed to stabilize Sarah, and I went to meet with the doctors who would perform the transplant. They began explaining everything to me, and I expressed my desire to have this conversation with everyone present. We all gathered in Sarah's hospital room, where my parents were already waiting. The doctor started outlining the situation. Sarah had about 6 months to live without a transplant. They went over the procedure with us and emphasized how perfect a match I was, how unlikely it was to find a more viable donor, and how crucial it was that we schedule the surgery as soon as possible. I stepped over to Sarah and took her hand. Looking into her deep brown eyes, I said, "Did you hear that? I am a perfect match. Essentially, I'm the only person who can save you, and I'm not going to." I paused for effect, letting the weight of my words sink in. "You are the most vile, narcissistic piece of gutter trash I have ever known. I only came here so you would know that the one person who could keep you alive is the one person you have wronged the most. And now you're paying for that with your life. You're going to die. You should make peace with that." Sarah burst into tears, and my parents turned to confront me, their faces a mix of shock and anger. The doctor and nurse stood there in complete disbelief. I turned to my parents and warned them, "Don't even talk to me, and don't you dare ever ask me for anything ever again. The only money I would ever spend on you would be for your funeral, under the stipulation that you be cremated and your ashes released to me. At that point, I will promptly deposit your remains in the dirtiest place I can find." With that, I left the room without looking back. I returned home, surrounded by my true family, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another wild story.